I didn't know about the Dune
popcorn bucket.
popcorn box,
For those
bucket.
who, yeah, before we got on camera, we got to introduce Willem to the Dune popcorn bucket, which
Wow, is that a special experience?
You're Ed Saxberger, the Ed Saxberger, right? The poet?
That was a long time ago.
You were brilliant.
I really related to, I feel like the way the film becomes about identity in art and kind of like, what does it mean to be an artist in New York? And I think there's a lot of definitions to that. I'm curious for you, how does the film speak to either your understanding of artistry or does it differ from that?
Everybody's different. The one thing about late fame is you got to remember that the guy came to the city when he was young, and that's something I identified with because I did the same thing. And curiously enough, at the same period. So I really identified with it. But maybe this is my projection on him, but like me, when I came to the city, I did not see it as a career opportunity. Fame had nothing to do with it. That's why I kind of bristle at the idea of late fame, you know. But he was really there because there was a scene happening and he was drawn to it and he connected with the desire to make something. So he was going to readings, he was writing poetry, he was having a life. But it wasn't necessarily to get famous. And at a certain point, the scene kind of went away. And poetry is a tough thing to make a living out of, as it is. So he made the choice that he would stop writing, and he started to work at the post office, and that became his life. And he built a different life. We can't be too sad about that because that's his choice, and there's different stations in life. There, of course, are people that have been able to do both. Do a job to earn their living and still be very engaged. Very famous ones. I mean, T.S. Eliot worked at a bank. There's many examples of that. So that is possible, but clearly there was a shift. So what's interesting for me about this story is then later in life, where there's a tendency sometimes for people to look back at their lives, he gets seduced and flattered by these people that say, oh, you were great, what happened? You know, you're genius, you come hang out with us. And slowly he starts to flirt with a self that isn't anymore and is tied to that period. But of course, it's not meant to be because everything's changed. And these kids that admire him are the Enthusiasm Society. They come from a different place. So it's not really meant to be, and then we see what happens. It's also a kind of cautionary tale, I think, about don't become the person that people project you to be.
Yeah.
So that all has to do with art and pleasure and making things next to having, making your living out of that. I admire people that can, do things with great love, but also can at the same time find a way to make a living, and they enjoy both.
Yeah. I think it's part of what I enjoyed so much about the film is that like it recognizes, I think the idea people have of artists in New York is tied to that era when you moved here, where the idea that you could be a struggling artist and make a living, but also like rents then were comically low.
But also, this was a temporary thing, my experience, and it's my experience, was a special time, and the city was on its back, and you're right, the rents, it was a dangerous place, it was a violent place, it was a bankrupt place, and all these kids like me, middle-class kids from the Midwest and other places came to Mecca to play with this thing of being an artist. And I came here because I was turned on. I was turned on by things I was reading about people, loft performances and dance and things that were happening here. Punk music was just starting. So that became like a magnet. And then you got here and there was a community. It had its own kind of hierarchies and its own, but you never, there was no way to think that this was going to last forever,
Right.
or that it was a career path. And the other cool thing was people were not, people were doing things that they weren't trained for. Where now, and this is where the Enthusiasm Society in the film is very different, they're studying these people. They've gone to university.
Right.
You know, there is not necessarily a career path, but they're studying in it. It's their identity. Where I felt like when in the early days, and I was ambitious, don't get me wrong, I was a good Midwestern boy that wanted to make good. But I started out not thinking, not knowing, not even concerned about whether I could make a living.
Sure, you're kind of chasing the passion, and like what comes later,
Yeah.
that's not the concern at
You're
that point.
22 years old, you know, you love hanging out with people that are crazy and brave, and, you know, you kind of brag about your misery, and it's romantic.
Do you remember a moment where you were like, oh my God, I'm in New York, I'm doing the thing?
I was doing the thing, but I didn't know what it meant.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still doing the thing, and I don't know what it means.
That's
I
mean,
it's
very
clear
valid.
that
No.
I've been able to make my living, and I've been fortunate to get support in what I do, but it really comes down to doing things that you love to do.
Mm-hmm. Was there a point where...
And not thinking about the result too much.
Yeah, that's something, because you and I have talked a few times, and I always find it so fascinating because you have such a storied career and you've done so many things, and it doesn't sound like you're sitting down and going, the roadmap is this.
Not at all.
So I'm curious, looking back with like late fame, when you look back, is there like a moment where you're like, oh, this is, I think, when I knew I was going to be an actor professionally?
No.
That's so wild, Willem.
No, but because it's a little bit like the example, you know, the bulk of my experience and you know, coming of age as an actor, the bulk of it, not all entirely, was with the Wooster Group. Mm-hmm. And that was an avant-garde company that was downtown. I never really took a salary. I was, you know, figure modeling and things like that to make a living, and living quite cheaply. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't worried about those things. But getting back to your question about feel like you had arrived or something, mm-hmm. There was no arriving, because there was no track, there was no record, there was no career for a performer,
right?
You know, in a small avant-garde theater. And we were, I guess what I wanted to bring up is, at the Wooster Group, it was so precarious and so difficult that we approached every show that we did as if it was going to be the last. Now, after a while, because I was there for 27 years, mm-hmm. After a while I said, this is getting a little ridiculous. I think we're going on. But the spirit of still, you know, doing what you're doing was there. And of course, you know, after a while you start to plan, and you do start to project on the future. But the spirit of what you're doing is to really concentrate on what you're doing and not think about the result. And there's a real practical parallel in acting, for mm-hmm. example. When you're performing, it's like being an athlete. The second that you think, hey, I'm doing really good,
right.
Or, oh, they're really liking the play, or, oh, this is cool.
You're out of it.
You fall out. So it's just a lesson about, you know, stay on it, stay in it, and what will be. And the pleasure is not the rewards that you're going to get, whether they be monetary or stroked or whatever it is. It's the pleasure of being in it, and pleasure of having, you know, this special place that connects you with, you know, things that are temporal and eternal.
Sure.
In the best way.
Yeah, well, it sounds like mindfulness, right? Like being in the moment,
that's what it
and
is.
Being receptive to that.
I mean, that's ideal. It's hard to practice, but you can have the ideal and go towards it.
Well, it's so incredible looking back at like, I'm obviously more familiar with your film work. I'm aware of the Wooster Group, but theater
okay.
being.
It's okay.
You know,
I didn't know about the Dune
popcorn bucket.
popcorn box.
For those
bucket.
who, yeah, before we got on camera, we got to introduce Willem to the Dune popcorn bucket, which
Wow, is that a special experience?
I do feel like we're going to need to get a B-roll of you putting your hand in it again now. No. It's like, absolutely not. I know what the internet does.
Exactly.
But like looking over your filmography, it's so incredible because, and we've talked about this before, whenever I get to tell people like, oh, I'm talking to Willem Dafoe, everybody has a different like point for of like where they became, like they're like, oh, Willem Dafoe from.
Which I'd be a liar if I didn't think it was cool. I appreciate it. No, because it makes you feel like, it makes you feel flexible.
Yeah.
You know, like you can be seen different ways. That you know, whatever way I am, whatever I'm working with, can be, you know, it is flexible, it is mutable, it is, you know, you aren't stuck.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I have one more question about, so I think you're such an interesting physical actor because you seem very, like, not aware of your body, but you seem very comfortable in your body. And I think that's part of why it's translated. I don't know if you're aware, but online people are fascinated by the way you pose for photo shoots. In particular, there's one where you're like, you've kind of made a triangle of your body.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then people try to imitate it and they're like, why don't I look as cool as Willem Dafoe? I am curious how you approach a photo shoot.
I got to admit, I like photo shoots. And I've talked about it, and what you're talking about, I'm aware enough that I hope it doesn't make me gun shy or make me self-conscious about it, because I'm aware of it. Because if I'm supposed to come up with great poses, I mean, it's like, forget it. You know?
Sure.
I'll go the other way. There's something instant about it. It is a collaboration. You enter a room, you get these clothes that you would probably never wear in life. Not always, sometimes beautiful clothes, but sometimes they're horrible. They come in, everybody's very nice. You've got a day. The photographer comes in, he may have some ideas, she may have some ideas. We shoot away, and it's all about finding something. And everybody wants the same thing. Everybody's kind of loose because they don't know you. They don't know whether you're going to be a prima donna or you're not going to pop or whatever. But when it works, it's really fun and it's really instant. It's about making shapes. It's about, you're free because you're not representing anything. You're just doing. And that's back to what you said physically. I'm trained as an actor, as a doer. Not in psychology, not in interpretation, not in lots of things. But I know that everything is based on doing. And the quality of how you do it is the performance. And you put yourself into these structures, and then the structures kind of tell you what to do and work on you, and then something happens, and that becomes the heart of the performance. Of course, you have other considerations like text, other performers. There's all these elements. But in a photo shoot, it's stripped down. It's, watch me do this, watch me do this. Oh, why can't we do that with the table? Why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? It's instantaneous. And it can, if you're in the groove with the photographer, it can be great fun.
I love that. It sounds like it maybe also comes back to your finger drawing past, or like that you were a finger.
Maybe.
Maybe that's interesting.
But, you know, when you change what's normal, and you have a license to do that, and it's got no pressure on meaning something, it can be very freeing and very playful, and you can discover things. And that point of surprising yourself or finding contact with the other people you're working with is what makes anything come alive.
That makes sense. That makes sense for me, your filmography. I think that's our time.
Oh boy, I'm a little chatterbox.
No, you were splendid. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure.
Your tattoos hypnotized me.
Anytime, Willem. Anytime you want to be head to tattoos, the couch is here.